Pagi Pak Prof, selamat pagi Pak In.
Pagi semuanya. Belum ada suaranya nih, betul?
Mas, bumpernya belum ada suara.
Diulang aja.
Iya. Ini looping. Oke, aku bisa mulai sekarang atau setelah bumper?
Bumpernya.
Bapak Ibu, sesaat lagi kita akan membuka link webinar. Untuk peserta, kami informasikan bahwa percakapan Bapak dan Ibu akan terdengar kepada seluruh peserta webinar. Terima kasih. Please be ready to turn off your microphone and camera. Our session is about to start. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. The Indonesia National Anthem, Indonesia Raya. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for a long time now, as well as those who are new to the Indonesian Finance Association. Today marks our 7th Indonesian Finance Association International Conference, and we are proud to be able to host it today here at this wonderful place with all of you. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Reisha Agustin, your Master of Ceremony of the day, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. Before we get started, on behalf of the committee of this event, I would like to welcome our guest of honor, Dr. Peri Warjio, the Governor of Central Bank of Indonesia. It is privilege to have you in this event, Pak, and also to share your wisdom on the keynote session later on today. We would like to also welcome our honorable speakers, Professor Gunri, University of Hawaii, Mr. Fitri Hadi, Director of Information Technology and Risk Management, Indonesia Stock Exchange, Professor Robin K. Chow, National Cheng Chi University, Taiwan, Mr. Arne Hartman, CEO MLN International Indonesia, and Professor Mariam Doigun, University of Nottingham, United Kingdom. We would like to welcome our honorable guests, Mr. John A. Prasetyo, President Commissioner of Indonesia Stock Exchange, Mr. Ronald Was, President Commissioner of ID Clear, Mr. Rahmat Waluyanto, President Commissioner of the Indonesia Center of Security Depository, Mr. Inarno Jayadi, President Director of Indonesia Stock Exchange, Mr. Sunandar, President Director of ID Clear, Mr. Urip Budi Prasetyo, President Director of the Indonesia Center of Security Depository, and all commissioners and directors of self-regulatory organizations. We welcome also rectors, deans, and all the faculty members. And welcome Prof. Irwan Adi Ekaputra, the President of Indonesian Finance Association, and Prof. Eduardus Tandelilin, Chair of Advisory Board Indonesian Finance Association, and Dr. Leo Indra Wardana, Indonesian Finance Association Organizing Committee. Now, I would like to call Professor Irwan Adi Ekaputra, the President of Indonesian Finance Association, for his welcome remarks. Prof. Irwan, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Resya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Very good morning to all of us. Welcome to the 7th Indonesia Finance Association International Conference. First, I would like to thank all of you for the massive participation in the 7th International Conference of the Indonesia Finance Association. In particular, I warmly welcome and thank the distinguished Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, for your willingness to serve as the keynote speaker in today's event. Please also allow me to kindly greet distinguished Director of IDX, Bapak Inarno Jayadi, the distinguished Director of KPI, Bapak Sunandar, distinguished Director of KSEI, Bapak Urip Budi Prasetyo. This event will not be possible without your relentless support. Thank you also to the distinguished Professor Eduardus Tandelilin and steering committee members of the Indonesian Finance Association, distinguished guest speakers, Professor Gonri, Mr. Fitri Hadi, Professor Robin Chow, Mr. Arne Hartman, and Professor Mariam Doigun, and all of our partners for their continuing support to the IFA. This year's theme is Finance, Capital Market, and Corporate Governance in the Digital Transformation Era. As the theme suggests, we need to learn and predict the impact of the digital transformation on finance, capital market, and corporate governance. Some predict that financial markets will likely be leaner in this transformative era. We all know that the financial market ecosystem is based on large data, and digitalization is an opportunity to improve efficiency and reduce costs that will hopefully benefit all market participants. There is a higher appetite for advanced analytics, cloud, AI, and blockchain, among others. We need to look at digital transformation as a strategic imperative across front, middle, and back office processes. However, there remain a few challenges that we witness today. There are persistent challenges of regulations to keep up with the unavoidable changes. There is also an increasing need for improved cybersecurity and compliance procedures. We need to quickly adapt to enable growth in the financial market while driving innovation in new business models, products, and services. In the corporate governance aspect, we urge corporate board members to keep up with the digital competencies and also to lead digital transformations. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank the organizer for their tireless hard work in putting this conference together. This year, we have 39 presenters from 7 countries and well over 1,900 registered participants. A tremendous success that I would like to applaud. The conference will run for 2 days, today and tomorrow. Please take the opportunity to learn from our distinguished speakers, academic leaders, and practitioners to make your advancement in this digital era. Thank you for your kind attention and have a fruitful conference. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Next, we would like to hear remarks from President Director of Indonesian Stock Exchange. And also thank you so much, Professor Irwan Adi Eka Putra, for the wonderful remarks previously. Now, Mr. Inarno Jayadi, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Reza. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, selamat pagi. Chairman of Indonesia Finance Association's Advisory Board, Professor Eduardus Tandelilin. President of Indonesia Finance Association, Professor Irwan Adi Eka Putra. Founding editor of Pacific Basin Finance Journal, University of Hawaii, Professor Gondry, good morning. Director IT and Risk Management IDX, Mr. Fitri Hadi. Commissioners and Directors of SROs, Pak John, Pak Rahmat, and also Pak Ronald Waas, Pak Urip, and also Pak Sunandar. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. First, I would like to thank Indonesia Finance Association for organizing and collaborating with IDX, KPEI, and KSEI to hold this event. This is the second time we have held Indonesia Finance Association's International Conference virtually, and we are very happy to be part of this event that has attracted enthusiasm for many people who are keen to share their knowledge and research related to finance and capital markets. Finance and business are undergoing a profound transformation. Digital technologies are reshaping payments, lending, wealth management, business operations, a process that the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated. While digital technology is disrupting, it also provides us with great opportunity to build new business models and services offerings. According to the World Economic Forum, business that embrace digital transformation gain more profit than those who lag behind. Digital technology has helped people to achieve more, optimize operation, increase efficiencies, and improve outcomes. It is inevitable and has become the new norm in business and finance. However, digital transformation also brings new policies challenges that we never really confronted before. It will be very interesting to hear from the expert on how finance and capital market today have been influenced and adapted to digital information as well as developed. Ladies and gentlemen, responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and the rush of digital transformation, IDX has incorporated digital technology in our business operation and services to stakeholders. The result on the industry are very satisfying. In this opportunity, I would like to share a little bit about current Indonesia capital market condition and recent development. Until Monday, our Jakarta Composite Index grew 6.08% and added around 800 trillion rupiah to investor wealth. In terms of trade frequencies, number of trade, the average of trade in 2021 grew 89% compared to last year figure to 1.2 million trades per day. Meanwhile, the average of trading value in 2021 reached 13.2 trillion rupiah per day. And this has become the highest daily transaction ever on IDX. Ladies and gentlemen, the increase of trading is impacted among others by the change of people lifestyle during this pandemic. Limitation to activities by government or PPKM has swift customer behavior from offline to online activities. The increased number of online trading applications have made capital market more accessible anytime and anywhere. In our views, Indonesia youngster or so-called millennials has also become increasingly aware of the future planning, and they look for investing in capital market due to ease of access and low barrier of entry. The use of technology in the new normal era give positive impact on the investor growth since last year. Digital technology enables us to reach out to many new potential investors everywhere at a very short time and with lower costs. The number of new investors, new stock investor or SID in the last 8 months in 2021 has reached a new record of 1 million new stock investors. On the supply side, year to date, there are 38 new listings, including the first ever Indonesia tech unicorn IPO last month. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, to close my remark, I would like to give my appreciation to everybody who have supported this event. I hope this conference will facilitate meaningful discussion, provide valuable insights, and even provoke some new innovative ideas. Thank you for your participation in this event. Stay safe and have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Mr. Inarno Jayadi, the President Director of Indonesia Stock Exchange, for the wonderful remarks. Once again, I would like to welcome all speakers and audience to the 7th Indonesian Finance Association International Conference, a two-day event featuring international guest speakers and panels of experts. The 7th Indonesian Finance Association International Conference is supported by IFA, IDX, KPAI, KC, Universitas 11 Maret, Universitas Gajah Mada, Universitas Indonesia, Universitas Lampung, and Universitas Samratulangi. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of your support for helping us make this event come together to become a success. We couldn't have done it without you. Quickly, I would share the agenda of today. In today's session, we'll be having keynote presentation from our honorable guest, Dr. Peri Warjio, the Governor of Central Bank of Indonesia. Plenary Session 1 with Prof. Gunri, founder editor of Pacific Basin Finance Journal, University of Hawaii. Plenary Session 2 with Mr. Fitri Hadi, Director of Information Technology and Risk Management, Indonesia Stock Exchange. Continue with 2 parallel sessions after the lunch break. Stay tuned for more great panels and expert speakers. For the keynote presentation, I would like to call upon Dr. Perry Warjio, who has been instrumental to the Central Bank of Indonesia organization's journey. I would like to call Dr. Perry Warjio, the Governor of Central Bank of Indonesia, to deliver his talk. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for the nice introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semuanya. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. My dear friend, Professor Irwan Adi Eka Putra, President of Indonesia Finance Association. My dear brother, Inarno Jayadi, the President Director of Indonesia Stock Exchange. My guru, Professor Edward Tande Lilin. But of course, all of you that listening my talk. Nonsense, but very important. That's what I want to talk about. Let me ask as following. What makes people become a leader? What is a leader is all about? Ask yourself, Inarno. Ask yourself, my guru, Edward. Ask yourself, Prof. Irwan. What is leader about? Only one question. Legacy. 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 11 gajah died, leave their task, gadingnya. And of course, leader leave their legacy. That's what a leader is about. You, myself, Inarno, my guru Edward, you will be a legacy if you will be leader if you can create legacy. Each and every one of you. You will be a leader if you can create and leave legacy. The best thing in your life that contribute to humanity. Not for yourself, but for others. Legacy that being recognized by others now and will be remembered to the future. That's leadership is all about. Legacy, legacy, legacy. That's leadership is all about. Can we be a leader? Yes, you can. Every day, body can you can. You can. Inarno can. Guru Edward can. You can be a leader if you can create legacy. And how legacy be created? By strategic foresight. By strategic foresight. From the dream into the reality. Innovation for humanity. So why don't we create legacy? You, myself, everybody, make legacy. Close your eyes. Let's close our eyes and then let our mind flows. Let our heart blows. Look to the future. What will be happening in the future? And what is the plan to make those realized? Becoming benefit for other people, and then also make and together others. Three key things that we can create legacy. First, plan for success. Second, simply the best. Third, together we can. That's the three things that we have to remember. Inarno remember, my guru remember, everybody remember. Please remember that. Create legacy by planning for success, simply the best, and together we can. That's what leadership is about. Once again, let's close our eyes. Let our mind flows and our heart blows. Look to the future, not too far away. 5 years from now, what will be happening? Strategic foresight for 5 years from now. Learn about things from pandemic, what we are living in, and what will be happening to the future. Of course, there are many things, but our mind and heart can make those many things into simple things, into at least 3 things. I only want to talk one of them. Only one of them. I ask you to search the other 2. Close your eyes. Let your mind flows and your heart blows. Think about 5 years from now. Feel what's happening 5 years from now. Once again, I only want to talk one thing. That already happening, will be happening, and will be accelerated and change the humanity. Change life. Change the way we do business. Change the way we do finance. What is this, Inarno? What is this, my guru, Prof. Edward? Prof. Irwan? Everybody, one thing that already changed our life. About 20 months we are living pandemic and will be more accelerated. You know the answer? Use your mind. Use your heart. Can you find it? Can you find it? Can you find it? Okay, I know you find it. What is this, Inarno? What is this, Prof. My guru? Digitalization. 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 Already happening. Accelerated during the pandemic. And will be more accelerated to the future. Not too far from now. Already changing. Digitalization change the humanity, change life, change the way we do business in economic and finance, in everything, in education. Prof. Edward. Digitalization. Then, are you ready? Can you becoming a leader to lead the way of humanity for digitalization? That's leader. Can we create legacy for digitalization? This is what I want to talk about. How digitalization changed the way of the economic and finance. That's one thing that I want to talk about. Second, what we at the Bank Indonesia, under my leadership, introducing change, creating legacy for helping everybody to be digitalized, especially in the economics and finance. But then I will ask everybody of you to be leader, to join this journey of digitalization for better life, for better humanity, and of course, creating business for everybody, including you. Let's start. Can I have my slide, please? Transforming digital economy and finance in Indonesia. That's the theme, the key message that I want to talk about. How digitalized already in our economic and finance. How Central Bank of Indonesia joining and leading on the digitalization of the economic finance through payment system and money market. And of course, I will close by asking each of every one of you to be a leader in everything that you do for digitalize our economy for the better of life and humanity. Next slide, please. I will talk about the first thing, which is about acceleration and digitalization. Global as well as domestic challenges. The second, how Bank Indonesia introduce, accelerate, and have a vision for creating legacy on the digitalization of payment system, as well as modernizing Indonesia money market, and now joining cross-border with other countries. This is what leader is about. Legacy, together, planning for success, simply the best, together we can. Next slide, please. I do not want to spend too much time, but we already know, already feel it, how digitalization accelerated in the global development. Look at the first chart in the upper left hand. How big text monthly user keep increasing. Not only increasing, accelerating in a pace very, very fast. The six big tech that playing the dominant role in digitalizing in every aspect, especially in economic and finance. Look at the graph, how the speed of digitalization monthly user keep accelerating of the big tech. Lower left graph. Online orders in retail industry in selected countries, in a number of countries. How acceleration of the business in retail using digitalization. We have to know that the way we do business and many habits change because of digitalization, from big to retail, from physical to digital, in every. Then, of course, lower right graph. The share of e-commerce in overall retail sales spiking. Retail, e-commerce. And then, of course, upper right hand. This is the CBDC that the central bank, myself, and other fellow central bank are, of course, focusing. How the central bank also need to change in this digital age by central bank digital currency. I don't want to spend too much time, but you know the message. Digitalization accelerated and very fast trend movement, very, very fast globally in the role of the big tech, in the e-commerce and retail, of course, in the way the economy and finance are, of course, being done. Next slide, please. Indonesia. Look at the graph. Digitalization accelerated, even at a faster pace during the pandemic. E-commerce. This year, we forecast will increase by 48.4%. Transaction on the retail through e-commerce accelerated. 395 IDR trillion rupiah in the month. The values, the frequency, the volume increasing also from big to small retail. Digital banking. I'm talking digital banking, not digital bank. The way the bank do the business through online, through virtual, not physical. It's different with the digital bank institution. This is the business of the bank that using digital. Increase, we forecast 30.1%. How much? The values, 35,600 IDR trillion rupiah. From using transfer, opening account, of course, and any transaction of the bank. Electronic money increased by 32.2%, 278 IDR trillion. So digitalization in the economic and finance already accelerating and will be accelerating. This is what happening. Next slide, please. Of course, the way the bank and the financial institution do or also change. But I'm very proud of the bank in Indonesia. They are changing. I calling them to change how the way to do the business. The banking, of course, the dominance being disturbed, but they are surviving, accelerating. They're changing their way of business. In the past, my guru, Prof. Ed, they want to open the bank. Prof. Ed will need to to go to the bank. Please open my account. But now I can see Prof. Ed smiling. Wherever he is, wherever he do, he can open the account. He can transfer. It's very easy now. But of course, other non-bank financial institution, the e-commerce, the fintech, I think that's already changing. This is the graph that I do not want to spend too much time. The key message, the banking, not bank, the banking already digitalized. Non-bank financial institutions need to be digitalized, as well as the fintech, the e-commerce. Now, all of them serving the retail, finance, and commerce. Next slide, please. As well as in the money market, This is that we need, and central bank are working with other to increase the domestic money market, increasing and digitalizing. So that's the first part of my talk. Let's look not far from now, 5 years from now. Strategic foresight. What will be happening in this world, in Indonesia, in the economic, in the finance from this graph? Close your eyes, use your mind, use your heart. Strategic foresight. If for the only past few years accelerating, what will be happening 5 years from now? Will Inarno, our exchange market digitalize? Will Prof Ed will be teaching in everywhere, wherever, probably with his lovely wife and son, and teaching, because digitalization. No need to go to campus, using podcast and everything. How then, of course, in the economic and finance digitalize? Strategic foresight. Next slide, please. Then the question, how can we together create legacy in every part of our role? Whatever you are, whatever we do. With that, from the strategic foresight, plan for success, simply the best, together we can. That's leadership about. Once again, create legacy, strategic foresight, and then plan to success, simply the best, together we can. That's the theme of my talk today. Let me just share our experience, the central bank experience, in introducing, of course, planning, executing, providing the best, and of course, as our strategic partners, the banking, the fintech, the e-commerce, what we call it, Indonesian Payment System Industry Community Association, together with us to create the legacy. I will share in very short time about digitalization of payment system, modernizing Indonesia money market, and cross-border finance. Next slide, please. This is the dream in the left side, my guru. Thanks for your teaching to me. When I was college, you are always teaching a good thing for me about the strategic foresight. The left hand is the vision of the payment system 2025. When we introduce, when we announce, May 2019, Indonesian Payment System Vision 2025 that we introduced, we announced May 2019, 10 months before the pandemic. Back then, we do strategic foresight, looking at digitalization in the global Indonesia, what will be happening in 2025? How can we make the best for the country, for life, for humanity, for the people? Thus, the vision. Number one, through our digitalization of the payment system, can we integrate the national digital economy and finance through the digitalization of payment system? Because everything in the economy and business need to use payment system. We need to integrate the national digital economy and finance, whether being offered by digital bank, by fintech, by e-commerce, all of them, we want to integrate through digitalization of the payment system. Number two, how can we transform the banking, not bank, the banking industry to digitalize, to offer opening account not physically but through online innovation, as well as, of course, moving together digital transformation within the banking industry. Thus, our Indonesian payment system that we introduced May 2019 to support to accelerate digital transformation. But of course, we have to work together. Number 3, how can the banking, the digital banking, work together with the fintech, with the e-commerce? The IKA between Bhinneka, the unity of any diversity in the business. That's number 3. The interlink between digital banking, fintech, and e-commerce to be, of course, creating legacy for the ecosystem, end-to-end process. Number 4, of course, how can innovation to be balanced with the customer protection, the integrity, and the stability of the system. Innovation needed to transform, but transform for better well-being, for the stability. That's the balance between innovation as well as the benefit of all and the people. And 5, of course, how can from national into global? How can, of course, we join global initiation and digitalization of the payment system? Of course, national interests need to be taken upon. That's the strategic foresight that we announced May 2019, 10 months before the pandemic. But then we have to plan for success. What are the plan of the success? The 5 main activities. I will not go into detail, but let me just tell you, which is the open API. I will talk about the standard, of course, the retail payment, 24/7, be it fast and others, and wholesale and retail that we are now going through, data digitization and regulatory reform. This the plan for success. But of course, we need together we can, because the central bank cannot work alone. We need to work with industry. Underneath that, industrial approach, regulatory approach, and innovation approach. That's together we can. Next slide, please. This is the balance between the 3 objectives. How can we integrate our national digital economy and finance through, of course, regulatory reform for healthy, competitive, and innovative payment industry? Then, of course, on the right hand, of course, the industry that providing, serving for the people with market practice, healthy, efficient, and fair for providing payment system, and supporting by digitalization of the infrastructure to be integrated, interconnected, interoperable of payment infrastructure structure. This the strategic foresight. This is the vision. This is the plan for success, and together we can. Next slide. Are we simply the best? What we have been already achieving? I thank so much my dear fellows from industry, whether from the banking, whether from the fintech, whether from the e-commerce, because we work together. Together we can to simply the best. We work closely with industry, the association, mainly the Indonesian Payment System Association, Asosiasi Sistem Pembayaran Indonesia. Our working group and then their committee joining hand. We, of course, giving direction, the policy, and then the industry develop together we can. What we already achieving from the right-hand side, the QR Indonesian standard that already being applied. Back then, Prof. Edward, I just asked my people, my team and industry. I'm from the village. There is a very good traditional market. We call it Pasar Ngawok. The best satay that I can have. The vision only simple. How can, if I come back to my hometown to buy satay in Pasar Ngawok, not using money, just using my handphone, cell phone, using QR Indonesian standard. And thanks goodness. Now already there. So my guru, Prof. Edward, sometimes we can go to Pasar Ngawok, no need to bring your money, use your cell phone, just you can buy satay. Make sure your account in the bank have the money. That's the fun. That's what it. And now how many retail already? 11.4 million SME already connected to QR Indonesian standard. The SNAP is Standard Nasional Aplikasi Programming Interface Pembayaran. This is one language for any connection of the services of the payment system. The bahasa Indonesia when digital banking, fintech, e-commerce serving their services. This is the bahasa Indonesia. The Ika of the Bhinneka. Thanks for the industry that we developed it. The SNAP. We already launched 17th of August this year. The QR Indonesian standard we launched 17th August of 2019. The SNAP we launched together with industry 17th August of 2021. Okay, move to the left. From QR Indonesian standard, SNAP, and now BI Fast. Fast payment, retail payment. Hopefully, God willing, we will announce with the industry at the end of this year, where, of course, retail payment, economic and finance transaction can be completed within seconds, 24/7. Real time, 24/7, of course, using BI Fast. This is the retail payment infrastructure. So next time, my guru, when we go to Yogyakarta, and in the night, we can go, of course, hanging out. And then, of course, when we use the QR Indonesian standard being linked by SNAP integration, and voila, the transaction completed within 24 seconds, real time. Your money will be deducted in the account, and the seller will be credited in their account. 24/7, real time. This is thanks for the association to work with us. To the left, number one is, of course, the reform, the regulatory reform. How can we make the end-to-end process of the ecosystem from the digital banking to the fintech to the e-commerce? We are already issuing our regulation and now already in the implementation end-to-end process. We value highly of the cooperation, whether through ownership or business contract. We value, of course, the classes of the industry, whether, of course, big systemic, whether medium, critical, or small, general. Everybody has the role. Everybody has the role in the industry with the strength, of course, risk management, and of course, capability of the digital technology that they have. We want to be everybody on board, of course, with the respective role and responsibility. I will be more faster. Next slide, please. And of course, I will go just pass this. Next slide. And this is the Bank Indonesia fast. Just next slide, please. And this is what the Bahasa Indonesia in the connection, the detail you can go. You can come back later on. Next slide, please. The QR Indonesian standard is, they already being implemented. Next slide. And now talking about modernizing Indonesia money market. What we want is how can the securities, the medium longer term securities can be used as underlying in the short-term liquidity and financial transaction. So the money, the fund, the financing can be more beneficial and useful for the economy. Imagine about using government bond, corporate bond, and then we structure that into smaller and as well as shorter, not more than 1 year. And then we use this underlying, creating repo market, repurchase agreement, and other derivative. One is, of course, to be more increasing flows of the fund in the economy. Second, to create a hedging for the needs of both the supplier and the creditors, as well as to be more used for financing of the economy. This is the blueprint of pendalaman pasar uang that we announced last year. Once again, strategic foresight. We want to be more deep, efficient, and modern money market, joining with the capital market, longer term market, and the Bursa Economic Indonesia under auspices of the OJK. We work more on the short term, not more than 1 year, creating more liquidity, more efficient, more transaction. Then actually the money, the funds in the longer term can be circulated, can be, of course, increase their liquidity for, of course, hedging, as well as creating more liquidity, more efficient market. Next slide, please. Once again, the balance between how can we increase the instrument, the product, and the participants, the pricing mechanism, as well as the infrastructure digitalized and to be integrated with the payment system. Next slide, please. And this is the blueprint, the vision of blueprint of pendalaman pasar uang 2025 to promote digitalization and strengthening of finance market infrastructure. The first strategy, once again, this is the money market, not the capital market, but need to be interlinked also later on with the capital market. Efficient market effectiveness of our policy, monetary policy, and then developing the economic financing source for the risk measurement. That's the three key strategies, the plan for success. Next slide, please. And of course, how this supporting the national economic toward developing Indonesia for the future. A number of progress that we already having. How can we create central counterparty, the trading venue, and also together with in the payment system. Next slide, please. And promoting the effectiveness of monetary policy transaction. How can our policy rate now is 3.5% and can be transmitted more efficient in the whether money market, whether the deposit and funding, whether the loan market and the capital market. We need to think this is the the outcome that we want, the difference between the 12 month and the short term with the 5 years now is very big. The 12 month of the money market now is about 3.7%. The 5 years about 5.2%. So with this, how can those be more closer? The 5.2 minus 3.7 is about, of course, 1.5, 1.6%. It's very big. In other countries, probably, depending on the inflation expectation, inflation forecast, there's no, it's not that big. If we can just reduce the difference between 5 years interest and the securities or bond with the 12-month money market from, for example, 1.5 into probably 0.7, just imagine how can efficiency in the economy and the finance be accelerated. That's actually one of the goals that we want. Next slide. And of course, for developing economic and finance, for financing the economy. Next slide, please. And now the cross-border from the local currency settlement to create how in Indonesia and Asia settlement or using of the local currency can be increased. We are already working with the Japan, with China, with Thailand, with Malaysia, and of course now in the process with the Philippines, Singapore, and others. More and more we use the local currency, bilateral local currency, so that creating stability and efficiency in the economic and business. No need to translate into dollar, US dollar first, and then to local currency. This is the local currency settlement is all about. Next slide, please. Of course, I'm already talking about cross-border payment system, QR Indonesian standard now being piloting with the Thailand and soon with other countries, with Malaysia, Singapore will be joining, the Philippines, of course, with the Middle East, the Saudis, Arabia, as well as to India. That's the future. That QR Indonesian standard can be also linked to for the cross-border. Next slide. Let me close the following. First, remember, what is leadership is about? All of us can be leader. All of us can create legacy for now and the future. The key, strategic foresight. What each every one of you can contribute, not far away, 5 years from now. Close our eyes, let our mind blow, let our heart blow. One of them is digitalization. Can we together create legacy of the digitalization in our doing everything that we do in the economic, finance, education, wherever you are. But of course, from strategic foresight, we need to plan for success, making dream into reality. From the planning, we just want to do simply the best in every plan. But we cannot walk alone. We have to walk together. Together, we can. This is what I want to share with you. I want to each everyone you need to be leader, to create legacy, to strategic foresight, plan for success, simply the best, and together we can. Let's be useful for the people, for life, joining our hand, creating legacy for people to remember now and then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the insightful sharing, Dr. Perry Warjio. We would like to present a symbolic token of appreciation, a lifetime membership of Indonesian Finance Association and Batik in conjunction with the celebration of Indonesia's Batik Day moment. We would like to invite Professor Irwan Adi Eka Putra to present our token of appreciation to Dr. Perry Warjio, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perry Warjio, for the very insightful sharing today. Please kindly accept our token of appreciation.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Perry Warjio, for the speech in our event today. Kindly please stand by, ya, Pak. We're going to have a group photo session with you. I would like to invite all guest speakers and participants to turn on your camera, please. I will be counting down from 5 in each page. Page 1, stand by. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Page 2, please stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The last page, please stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you everybody to participate in this group photo. For the additional information, this event can be accessed via YouTube Live Indonesia Stock Exchange. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pak Perry, sukses selalu.
Terima kasih.
Thank you,
Terima
Pak.
kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih, Pak Perry.
Terima kasih semuanya. Terima kasih. Adindaku Inarno, Mbak Guru, Prof. Ted, Adindaku siapa tuh? Kiki dan semuanya ya. Kiki juga ikut ya, saya lihat Adindaku semuanya. Terima kasih semuanya ya. Terima kasih semuanya. Be a leader, create legacy, plan for success, simply the best, together we can. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Now, for the first plenary session, an outstanding speaker who has been invited to many forums, founding editor of Pacific Basin Finance Journal, University of Hawaii, Professor Ganri. This session will be facilitated by our moderator, Dr. Iwayan Nukalantara from University of Gajah Mada. Dr. Wayan, the time is yours.
Wow. Well, thank you, Mbak Resya. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wayan Nuka. As mentioned by Mbak Resya, I'm from Gajah Mada University. In this session, it is actually the first plenary session that we have in this International Financial Association International Conference. This is the 7th time that we have for this event. We are so happy, we are so pleased to have Professor Gondry again with us, because I think this is not the first time for us to have him with us. You know, he shared also his insightful sharing presentation in the previous IFA. Yeah, I would like also to before we start the presentation from Professor Gondry, I would like to read his kind of summary of CV. Yeah. First, he is actually KJ Luke Distinguished Professor of International Banking and Finance, Sidler College of Business, University of Hawaii. I think when we heard about Professor Gondry, first things to my mind is he's from University of Hawaii. But based on the information that I got, Previously, he served as the dean actually in the Korea, in Seoul, Korea, SKKU Business School in Seoul, Korea. It was 2008 until 2011, and then he continued. He followed his career to University of Hawaii. And he is very active also as a visiting research professor at some universities across countries: Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia. Including Indonesia, I guess, Professor Gondry, we met before. He is also currently holding a chair professorship at the National Central University of Taiwan, and he served as adjunct professor at Monash University, Australia, from 2011 until 2017. He served as a managing editor of Pacific Basin Finance Journal. This is one of the prominent journal for Asia Pacific capital markets. So when we want to learn more about Asia Pacific capital market, I think we need to refer to this journal. And then he served also as the president of Asian Finance Association, or usually we call it ASEAN IFA. I think I have participated also several times in this conference, and we met before at that time. It was in Hong Kong. And then Macau, I guess, at that time. Besides also, Professor Gondry also served as the president of founding president of Pacific Basin Financial Management Society. It's not only the journal, but also Pacific Basin Financial Management Society. And he also served as a board member of the U.S. Financial Management Association. This is one of the big association of finance. And as an academician, he is very active with such a long list of publications. You just name it. So if we read the publications, kind of takes like pages, a lot of pages, including, of course, in top tier journal like such as Journal of Finance, Journal of Financial Economics, Journal of Financial and Quantitative Analysis, Journal of Banking and Finance. Just you name the top tier journal and you will find his name there. The other impressive thing from Professor Gondry is that he's not only active in academic life, in his publication only, but he is very active as well in serving society. Professor Gondry was a founding member and board member of something called Ohana Pacific Bank. This is a state chartered bank and serve ethnic minority business communities, including Korea and Chinese, Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Such a long achievement. So it's a very honor to have you with us again, Professor Gondry, with a rainbow background, very nice view. And I think we have around 45 minutes for presentation. And then the rest of that we will use for question and answer sessions. So I think that's it from me. And then this Zoom floor is yours now, Professor Gondry. Thank you. I'm sorry, I think there is a audio problem with Professor Gondry. It's still muted. I'm sorry. Your audio is still muted, Prof. Gondry.
Good now.
Now, can you see?
Yeah, it is very clear now. The audio is okay, Prof. Gondry.
Okay. So you can see the PowerPoint file now.
Not yet.
Hello?
Not yet for me.
Not yet? Oh. Just 1 second.
Yeah, it's okay.
So can you see? Somehow, I don't know why. Share screen. And then,
But just in case, do you need us to share the PowerPoint just in case? I think we have your file as well, if it is needed.
You have to open first the file. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now.
So we can see it now. Thank you, Prof. Kondri.
okay, let me. Okay, thank you so much. Good morning to all of you. And Dr. Wei, and you talked about me too much, and then I don't know whether I deserve that kind of compliments, and I still feel I have to do lots of work to make myself improved and better. So I'm just working very hard. That's my only reward to myself. And I would like to thank IFA for inviting me to this international conference this year. And I have been talking to this conference a number of years, but I love to come back to Indonesia and meet all of you face to face, and then talk about our research activities and all that. And so anyway, I'm very happy to see you. And then I noticed that when Central Bank's governor talked, we had the total number of our participants, 1,200 people. I couldn't believe I never seen that many participants in any Zoom session. And I was so impressed with the all the participation from scholars and students and all that. So I was really impressed. And today I would like to talk about corporate cash holdings, and then culture and economic policy uncertainty. And my talk is built upon three sources. Number one, two my published papers. One paper in Journal of Banking and Finance, and the second one in Journal of Corporate Finance. And then I have ongoing research projects on this topic at this moment. So my talk is based upon these three sources. So the first paper, JBF paper, focuses on international evidence of corporate cash holdings. And then second paper, the Journal of Corporate Finance paper, focuses on US evidence in corporate cash holdings. And then the ongoing research project I have at this moment is focusing on, again, US evidence. And let's go to this international evidence of our corporate cash holdings. And whenever we think about international market evidence, we have three representative studies which are widely cited. Dittmar et al.'s paper in JFQA 2003, and Pinkowitz et al., Journal of Finance in 2006, and then Karcheva and Lean's 2007 Review of Financial Studies. And the central focus of these three studies is the corporate governance. And then main findings, very simple. With poor governance system, corporations tend to carry large amount of cash holdings, and then these cash holdings value less. So that's the main findings of these three major studies we have. And then for your information, I'd like to share with you the average cash holdings of many different countries. So when we look at the cash holding ratios, so total amount of cash holding per $1 of total assets. And as you see, the first batch of countries, Australia, India, and Thailand, they tend to have a relatively low cash holding ratios, somewhere around 5.2%. And then I have another set of 3 countries, Singapore, China, Hong Kong. They are in the upper end of cash holding ratios. The average ratio we observe among many countries in the world, they are about 10.7%. And then now looking at Australia's 5.2% and India's 5.2%, one question immediately comes up. The corporate governance system in Australia and India about the same. That's why we do observe kind of very similar numbers between Australia and India. And also when we look at the Singapore and China, again, 2 countries do have a relatively similar cash holding ratios. Does it mean 2 countries' corporate governance systems are about the same? So that's the kind of question we have to ask. But we know looking at these numbers, corporate governance alone cannot explain cross-country variations in corporate cash holdings. So naturally, we are looking for what would be the appropriate variable which we can use to explain cross-country variations. So as you see here, national culture is the one we identify in our paper. So national culture would be the one which will explain the variation in corporate cash holdings around the world. So that's what we are trying to demonstrate in our paper. And then whenever we think about cultural dimension of sociology and psychology, we cannot forget about this distinguished scholar, Geert Hofstede. He's a Dutch professor, and originally he studied mechanical engineering. And by the way, unfortunately, he passed away last year. And so he lived about 90 or some years, and then he passed away. And so as I mentioned, by training, he was a mechanical engineer. And then later on, he got PhD in social psychology. And then he started working for IBM. And then while he was working for IBM, IBM has operations all over the world, across about 85 countries at that time, even though it was in early 1960s and 1970s. And so taking advantage of IBM's network of branch offices or subsidiaries all over the world, he decided to come up with these cultural dimensional measures, focusing on individualism, or the other side is collectivism, and then uncertainty avoidance and power distance, masculinity, and so forth. And today we are going to focus on individualism and uncertainty avoidance as a main focus variables to explain what's happening in the international variations of corporate cash holdings. And I wanted to share with you, actually what he did was he prepared some kind of a questionnaire, for example, to measure the individualism or collectivism tendency. He came up with about 14, 15 questions, and then he distributed those questions to IBM employees. And then he come up with the average of those numbers, and then he come up with the individual country numbers for individualism, collectivism, and uncertainty avoidance and all that. So let me show you, based upon Hofstede's IDV and UAI measures, what we are seeing is individualism-based countries. So a bunch of US, UK, and Western European countries are in this circle. And then at the bottom, lower level of individualism, we see Singapore, Indonesia, the score is about 14. And then many of our Asian countries are down here. So we can see the somehow individualism or collectivism kind of attitude. We can see a dramatic contrast between Western European countries and Asian countries. But when we take a look at uncertainty avoidance index, it's not easy to explain. For example, we see the Japan here, and so I guess it's understandable because the uncertainty avoidance index is relatively high for Japan, but how come Singapore down here very low? So somehow, and then also when we look at the top here highest uncertainty avoidance index, we see from Greece, and you know the Greece suffered from recent financial crisis about 5-6 years ago, and why Greece go for the high uncertainty avoidance index, but suffers from the this kind of financial crisis in its own country, in its own economy. And so somehow I feel this uncertainty avoidance index, there's something more than what I understand from this Hofstede's the analysis and all that. But anyway, this is what we have from Hofstede's book published in 1982 and 2001. And so that's what we are using for individual country, the cultural attitude. And because it's a kind of a one-shot picture, so we had to supplement Hofstede's the observations with many other the measures prepared by other scholars, but the results come out almost about the same as the when we use the Hofstede's the scores. So I will just present on the basis of Hofstede's IDV and UAI measures. So as you see here at the top, there are 102 countries data we have, and then we have about 37,000 companies altogether in our sample. But after we screen and filtered out many of the companies, and then we ended up with 41 countries and about 28,000 companies in our sample. Yeah. And then now we go to next one. So as you see here, the typical data sources, financial statement data coming from CompuStat Global and CompuStat North American database, and then IDV and UAI coming from Hofstede's the survey. And then we have a World Bank data, GDP growth, GDP per capita, and number of control variables we use is coming here. And then study period from 1989 through 2009. And then two hypotheses we are looking at is companies in individualistic culture hold less cash than companies in collectivistic culture. So that's kind of very obvious. And then second hypothesis is companies in high uncertainty avoidance culture tend to hold more cash in precaution as a precautionary motive than companies in no uncertainty avoiding culture. So it's a very simple, the two hypotheses we are testing. So the baseline model is very simple. We have a cash ratio as a dependent variable. And then we have individualism and uncertainty avoidance index, and then bunch of control variables, and then industry and year fixed effects we control for. And then basically what we are looking at is this. When we look at the entire sample, the US account for almost about 40% of our entire sample. So what we decided was, okay, we take a look at the full sample, including United States, and then subsample without United States. And then the results come out to be about the same. So as you see here, the corporate cash holdings can be negatively affected by individualism index. So that's what we see here, with and without control variables. And then without US included, and then this is what we see, about the same kind of results we see. And then when we look at the uncertainty avoidance index, we see the positive significant coefficient we observe. So these results are very consistent with what we propose in the original hypothesis. So the main findings will be very simple. Individualism is negatively related to firm cash holdings, and the uncertainty avoidance index is positively related to firm cash holdings. Now, one question we have is, what about US market? Even though US was one of the 42 countries we examined, but US market accounts for 40% of the world. So why don't we try to do some separate analysis for US market alone? So is it possible? And actually it is possible, because we have 50 states in the United States, and then each state can be characterized whether it's individualistic or collectivism-based states, and that kind of analysis, it becomes possible. So as you see here, at the bottom, the source of this collectivism index is coming from Van Deyer and Cohen's study in Psychology Journal. When we found this particular journal article, we were elated, because wow, so now we can see the by state, we have this collectivism index, the numbers. So my home state, Hawaii, has the highest number, 91. And when you see at the bottom, Montana has the 31. So Montana is kind of very individualistic, and Hawaii would be an extreme example of a non-individualistic state. So our idea is very simple. We look at the S&P, all the US companies' headquarter addresses, and we look at where they are located, which state they are located, and then we see whether this kind of individualism index or collectivism index would affect those corporate cash holdings in the United States. And then before we do that, I wanted to share with you a map which shows the individualism and collectivism. So as you see here, the white color states, the far west and Washington, Oregon, and Montana, Wyoming, and North Dakota, and all these places have some white colors. They are kind of individualistic states. And then the darker colors, so Hawaii is number one, and then many of our southern states including somehow California, and they have a very dark colors. That means collectivism-based states. So we will see the kind of interesting contrast between the some states which are kind of favored by individualism, and then some states are favored by collectivism. So now all we have to do is find out company headquarter addresses, and then see the how this kind of cultural effect will dictate the corporate cash holdings. So apparently the hypothesis will be very simple again. Those companies in individualistic states will hold small amount of cash, and then they will engage in much more capital incentive, capital expenditure intensive activities, and then mergers and acquisitions, than companies in the collectivistic states. So that's the kind of our main hypothesis we set up for the US corporations. And so naturally the main hypothesis is companies in individualistic states will hold small amount of cash and then engage in more capital expenditure activities and acquisitions than companies in collectivistic states. So when we run through the simple regression, the baseline regression here, the results come out very consistent with our prediction. So the individualistic state, we see the cash holding show the significant negative coefficient with and without control variables. And then when we take a look at the capital expenditure and mergers and acquisitions, and again, we see the individualistic state, those companies tended to have a positive coefficient we can show. And of course, in the paper, we went through all kinds of robustness tests and all that, but for the sake of simplicity, I don't go through all those nitty-gritty details. And then, so we come to the main conclusion. So we kept the whole observation. Individualism shows the significant negative impact on corporate cash holdings. And then uncertainty avoidance index and positive impact on cash holdings, not just in the United States, but also internationally across different countries. So that's why this cultural variable becomes very important, the factor in explaining corporate financing decisions or sometimes investment decisions. So that's why we have a fairly large number of studies pouring out every year in major journals. And then coming to the second paper I referred to, we wanted to look at the how economic policy uncertainty affects the corporate cash holdings. And so why we are looking at corporate financing decisions or corporate cash holdings? When we look back the published literature, we have a fairly large number of studies which examined economic policy uncertainty, its impact on corporate investment decisions. So I cited a few papers here: Jens in JFE, Julio and Yuk in Journal of Finance, and Gulen and Ian, RFS, and Bhattacharya et al. In JFQA, and Nguyen and Fan, 2017 JFQA. So plenty of studies which examined how economic policy uncertainty would affect the corporate investment. But somehow I observed that very little has been done to look at the corporate financing side. And especially corporate cash holdings, in my opinion, one of the most important component of our financing decision. So that's why we decided to move into this topic. Why corporate cash holdings? First of all, absolute magnitude of our corporate cash holdings, very large. So I cited Moody's study. Every year, Moody's come up with the corporate cash holding estimates. And as of last year, it reported that total amount of our cash holdings by US corporations, slightly over $2 trillion. And this $2 trillion, which is about 10% of our US GDP, which is huge amount. And then when we look at the Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet, better known as Google, and Amazon, and Facebook, these 5 companies carry about over $600 billion, or 28% of our total corporate cash holdings. So it's amazing these 5 companies carry that much of our cash holdings, and then they just sit on it and then looking around and see what they can do with the huge amount of cash holdings. And naturally, from managerial perspective, these cash holdings are very sensitive, in a sense, to economic conditions. So economic policy uncertainty will be a very important factor. So we have to think about how do we define economic policy uncertainty. So one major study which came out in Quarterly Journal of Economics, which came out in 2016, Baker, Bloom, and Davis. So Baker, Bloom, and Davis, they're Stanford, MIT, and Harvard are the Stanford, MIT professors. And they had the working paper from 2011, and already there were many, many follow-up studies based upon their studies. But even though publication was very late, but anyway, this paper is widely cited for the economic policy uncertainty. And then the idea of creating the economic policy uncertainty, very simple. What they did was they selected 10 newspapers. So USA Today, Miami Herald, Chicago Tribune, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, and so forth, and New York Times and Wall Street Journal. So they picked up 10 newspapers. And then what they did was they looked at this particular the terms in the newspaper coverage, economy or economic, or uncertain or uncertainty, or Congress, deficit, Federal Reserve, legislation, regulation, White House. So there are just a bunch of very ordinary expressions, but they use these terminologies to count how many numbers, how often these numbers come up. So based upon that, they come up with the average BBD index. So it's very easy to create. But even though just kind of a normal everyday language they are using to come up with the EPU index, but somehow we found that in the follow-up studies, we found that this particular EPU is very simple, but it can explain all kinds of uncertainty related to fiscal policies or monetary policies or stock market volatilities, and very powerful tool. So as a result, this economic policy uncertainty index become very popular. So nowadays, as far as I know, it is available for 23 countries. So starting with the US and then G10 economies. And then when I looked up Asian economies, Australia, China, Hong Kong, India, Japan, Korea, Singapore we have. And I'm not sure about the Indonesia. I hope we can have an Indonesian economic policy uncertainty index as well. So once you start, then you just pick the top 10 newspapers or top 5 newspapers, and then follow the the article coverages, and then you just come up with the other numbers very quickly. So it's easy to compile this economic policy uncertainty. So during our study period, when I graphed the index, and you see there are three largest numbers we see here. Number one is debt ceiling disputes. At this moment, US Congress also they are debating US debt ceiling. And so I don't know how it is going to be resolved, but whenever we talk about this debt ceiling, this is one of the major uncertainty. And then I hear on the radio this morning, if this negotiation between Democratic Party and the Republican Party fails, then US Treasury bonds will become risky instrument. And that will be a really kind of very bad news for the financial markets. And so many people were afraid of if that happens, maybe US interest rate will jump up, and then what happens? And then what will happen to the stock market? So everybody watches this debt ceiling related disputes. And then the highest index number was recorded in September 11, 2001, the World Trade Center attack, and that's the second one. Third one is the 2008 Lehman Brothers bankruptcy, and then TARP, T-A-R-P, that means the Troubled Asset Relief Program launched by Fed. And so TARP was another very important the source of policy uncertainty. So these three items during our study period are the major the peak items. And so we were able to gather the data for 1985 through 2015, so 30-year period. And then database also again, CompuStat, and then economic policy uncertainty, widely available now. And then we have our cash holdings for all these CompuStat based companies. So we look at their liquid assets to total assets, and then many variations of these cash holding measures. And then baseline model is again very simple. So we have a cash ratio, and then economic policy uncertainty measures, and then bunch of our control variables, and then firm fixed effect, and then what you see here, the main hypothesis, higher the economic policy uncertainty, the larger amount of our corporate cash holdings. So that's kind of very natural kind of hypothesis we can come up with. So as you see here, dependent variable is their cash holdings, but 1 year ahead, column number 1, column number 2, with and without control variables, and then 2 year ahead, cash holding at T plus 2, and then cash holding T plus 3. So 3 year ahead from this year's the economic policy uncertainty index viewpoint. And then this is what we have. As you see here, the somehow economic policy uncertainty cannot explain cash holdings 3 years ahead of us. But for 2 years, with and without control variables, it does very good job explaining positive impact of economic policy uncertainty on cash holdings of the companies. And of course, we have firm fixed effects and all that. So that's what we are seeing in this simple table. And then, as you can say, for example, when economy faces economic policy uncertainty, and then many companies with high economic policy uncertainty, they will invest less. And that means higher cash holdings companies will have. So that means their investment have a very, very similar impact on the cash holdings in the face of a high economic policy uncertainty. So we have to control for this investment. So we introduce a bunch of investment variables. So we have 1 year ahead GDP forecast numbers, growth, and then Conference Board Economic Index, and University of Michigan's Consumer Index, and then World Bank real GDP growth rate, and all this investment related variable we introduce, and then control for that, so that we don't have to worry about the omitted variable issue. And then whatever we are getting in terms of coefficients for economic policy uncertainty, they are all persistently positive and consistent. So that's what we are seeing. And then another issue we may have to think about is there could be a omitted variable problem. So what we did was, for example, number of uncertainty variables we introduced. For example, during our study period, there were 7 presidential election years. So that's created a huge amount of uncertainty. So we control for election year dummy. And then GDP growth rate, and then we have the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the VIX index, and then standard deviation of stock returns, and number of things. And then one more thing I have to mention here is JLN. JLN stands for Jurado and Ludwigsen and Engels, and they have the professors at NYU and Columbia, and they had one paper in AER in 2015, and unlike the qualitative uncertainty index, they did have introduced the quantitative index. They used about 300 macroeconomy related measures and financial market measures, and they really come up with the quantitative measures of economic policy uncertainty. And so their papers are well cited, and then the index numbers are also widely used. So we don't want to leave this kind of important variable omitted from our analysis. So we included Jurado and Ludwigsen and Engels the index as part of this analysis. And then what we see is here we introduce all this economic uncertainty variables one by one. And then once we come to column number 7, we introduce everything together. And then when we go through this analysis, consistently economic policy uncertainty does have a positive impact on corporate cash holdings. And so whether we control for the omitted variable issues, or we control for investment related issues, so the results are very consistent. So in the face of economic policy uncertainty, corporations, they tend to carry large amount of cash holdings. And now as part of this study, there are lots of robustness tests and all that, and also we looked at the economic channel of this kind of the analysis, and I wouldn't waste my time talking about all that and too complicated. So I will just jump over to the future research directions. And as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of my presentation, at this moment, we do have a nasty confrontation between the Democratic Party and Republican Party, especially after the last presidential election. So we do have this serious problem in US, and somehow I started thinking this political value must have some impact on corporate cash holdings. So whether the Democratic Party is in charge in Washington, D.C., or Democratic Party is in charge of state level government, and sometimes they may not be consistent. So the state level and the federal level could be different parties dominated. So given this kind of very unusual political situations, what will happen to those companies in those states? So somehow I felt that, wow, I think I have to go into this particular topic and examine this political value, how it affects the corporate cash holdings. And so the simple question is, do Republican parties members will promote the value of our cash holdings or encourage the corporations to carry more cash, or Democratic Party will do? And we don't know exactly what will happen, but in our study, we are going to find out. So given this kind of different political philosophy, how the corporations would be affected by this kind of political values or political alignment between state government level and federal government level. So I feel this is very exciting topic area to move in. So that's what I am doing at this moment. And then once we have that, the next question is, what will be the marginal value of our corporate cash holdings on the Democratic Party regime or Republican Party regime? So I know as a finance person, I shouldn't get into politics too much, but somehow at this moment, the current situation in the United States kind of dictates us to academics to go into this kind of topic to find out who will be favoring, for example, the corporate investment decisions, which party. And I know the Democratic Party traditionally always on the side of labor unions. And labor union, once labor union comes in, and then the corporate managers, they have to worry about their own position vis-a-vis labor unions. And sometimes they have to exaggerate the financial health, company's health, or sometimes they have to show we are in bad shape. So that there are all kinds of power balancing going on in relation to labor union, but labor union is just one example. But there are many, many issues, trade issues, and all that under the Democratic Party regime and Republican Party regime. So I feel wow, this is very exciting topic area we can move in. So that's my current research work I am going. And then tomorrow, Robin Chow will be a keynote speaker. He and I are doing together. So I'm kind of excited about having him as a partner in this project. And even though we are not born in US, and he's from Taiwan, I'm originally from Korea, but we are just looking at US financial market and trying to have a better understanding of what's going on in the US financial system. So with that remarks, I'd like to start my presentation. I hope I give you enough time to do questioning and all that. Or did I take too much time?
Well, thank you, Prof. Gondry. Actually, the time allocation for your presentation should be until 10:45. So, but thank you very much. You finished it earlier.
We can talk a little bit.
Which means that we have some more time to question and answer session.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Gondry. Very impressive research with a new perspective for us. Yeah, relating the cash holding with something to do with political uncertainty or cultural aspect of country, and along with some possible future research to do in the future. Now we still have around 30, maybe less than, let's say 25 minutes. Yeah,
okay.
Quite long minutes to for question and answer. For audience who would like to wish to asking questions, please press the raise hand button, and then please let us know your name and then your institution from where you belong, from which university or which institution, and then please ask your question in maybe short and concise questions. I'm not sure how should I can we know which participant or audience will raise the questions?
We can see it on the Q&A part.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Then you may also text in the question and answer. And then let us begin from a question from Ahmad Zaki. I would like to read his questions. Ahmad Zaki asking about what is the impact of national culture on investment intensity and payout ratio. Maybe this is payout ratio. Okay, that is the first question from Gondry. If you would like to respond to that question, what was the impact of national culture on investment intensity and payout? Thank you.
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe national culture has a very significant impact on investment decisions for corporations. And of course, at the global level, the variations will be very different, but I'm sure it will be an important factor, as we have seen from the major component of our financing decision, the cash holdings, but the investment decision, no doubt about it. Yeah, and looking at the US 50 different states, we looked at the capital acquisition and also the capital expenditure decisions by US corporations. And we saw how significant the individualistic attitude and collectivism attitude differ. And so once we open up the door and then look at the global market, then I'm sure the contrast will be very, very intriguing. And also, in my opinion, Indonesia is one of the largest countries and with the largest population in the world, and different provinces and also different local governments, they do have, I think, reflect the certain degree of individuals' cultural attitude and all this. So I think if we can identify Indonesian companies in different provinces and all that, we may be able to figure out how this kind of question will be answered in the Indonesian context. And also I feel China is another very intriguing country with large variations of cultural background. So if we look into China, that's another very promising research area, in my opinion. So my point is culture affects the investment decisions in a significant manner. And then especially Indonesia, big countries like Indonesia and China will provide a wonderful research lab for us to do meaningful analysis.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Gondry. Now we move to our colleague from University of Samratulangi, Pak Lawrence. Would you like to ask your questions?
Yes, thank you, Pak Iwayan. Thank you for the opportunity. Professor Gondry, how are you, Professor?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for such an insightful presentation. I have a quick questions about the main findings of I think your first paper. Can you please go back to the slide of the main findings about individualism and I think the uncertainty avoidance index?
You are talking about
the main findings. Yeah.
Okay, then please, Pak Lawrence, straight forward to your questions.
Yeah. So we know that regarding the uncertainty avoidance index, the positive relation can be explained by the precautionary motives of cash holdings. But can you please elaborate more the rationale behind the negative relation between individualism and cash holdings? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I think we have to, when we have a CEO who believes in individualism as his kind of major the management philosophy, and he will be kind of a dictator in his company, and then he will kind of confront any kind of issues with extreme confidence, and rather than relying on kind of a common opinion among the many people, he will say, I do believe that we will have this problem. So why don't we cut down cash holding? We don't have to worry about kind of future uncertainties and as much as we should. And so that's the kind of cultural value coming into corporate decision making at the high level. And so I think that's what we are trying to support in our paper. So if you go through the first paper in Journal of Banking and Finance, you will see kind of detailed discussions on individualism and corporate decision making processes and all that in there. So once you look through the paper, you will have a kind of ready solutions there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Wayan, can I ask Wayan? So
Okay,
it's related to Lawrence's questions, right? Gondi, do you think it's for the more individualistic CAO, they're also more overconfidence, right?
Very good point. Very good point. Yes.
Yeah, there is more overconfidence, right? So maybe
Yes,
they are less conservative. Right? They will tend to hold less cash, right?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that.
Thank you. Okay, so I think this is the one maybe. But my question is about why you only choose the two cultural dimensions, right? Individualistic and uncertainty avoidance. This is the maybe you can explain more about it. The second question also about you said that cash holding country variation could not be explained by the corporate governance, right?
Yes.
Is it we have other factor that you include the cultural dimensions, right, from us Hofstede, But do you think there's any relations, right, between individualism, corporate governance, and also maybe we discuss about the agency problem, because cash holding usually we also relate to the agency problem, right? Because if the I mean that if the agency conflict is very high, means that the CEO more want to hold more cash, right? It's correct. They tend to hold more cash, right? Because they want to use the cash, right, for their own interests, for their own benefit. So means that the individualism or individualist culture tend to have maybe tend to have less, okay, if I said is agency conflict, or they will tend to have a good corporate governance, something like so they tend to have
Interesting combination. Yes.
Yeah. So you can, maybe we try to relate all things, like
Yes.
individualistic, right? Okay. So this is okay. We just try to discuss. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Eduardo. So, you pointed out very good thing about the CEO overconfidence in relation to individualism, and I guess what we have to think about is the how all these issues can be narrowed down to. And one dimension I didn't talk about that much was the religion in this case. And I had one paper using religion-based the kind of impact on corporate decision-making. So especially when we sought the US corporations based upon the different states, whether that state is dominant by Catholics or dominant by Protestants.
Yeah.
And what we found is Catholic dominated states tend to have much more risk-taking, much more individualistic attitude. And that's the kind of the observation we made. So the somehow when we think about culture, religion we cannot overlook. And CEOs overall training, whether he's coming from blue collar class, the childhood, or he's coming from the really top noble class, the childhood, and all these things have some different impact, and also the religion. So once we come to these culture-related variables, there are so many variations we can think of.
Okay.
So actually, Eduardo, you raised very intriguing point, and that's the kind of research we have to go forward.
Thank you.
And I feel Indonesia is a wonderful country to look at. So you have a Muslim-dominated culture and also Chinese-dominated culture, and kind of mix of two things together. So I don't know how they will sort out once we come out of corporate decision-making processes. And so I think Indonesia is very intriguing country to examine.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you,
thank you.
Prof. Gondry, and thank you, Prof. Ted. He's my senior. He's very active also in doing research. And as far as I know, that is actually cash holding is one of his main actually research
okay.
interest
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Mm.
So I think it will be a good signal for you, Prof, that for your future research.
Yeah.
Okay, we would like to go back to Mr. Dr. Kim Sung Suk. I think I saw that you raised your hands and you just type also your question as well. Would you like to ask your questions directly to Prof. Gondry, or should I read the questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Professor Kim sounds like Korean man.
You're right. I'm from Korea.
Yeah, but please in English, please, because I couldn't understand Korea.
Okay. Now I am University of Pelita Harapan. Yeah. My question, I think already Prof. Edward already mentioned. My question is very simple. You just focus two dimensions of the culture. But as you explained earlier, Hofstede have another dimension of the culture. So I think you already see how other dimension of the culture influence to the cash holding of a company. So, or what kind of the factors you consider? You just focus the two dimension of the culture. That is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Kim, you raised very important points, and that's something I feel we should do more after we did the study in the Journal of Banking and Finance study, the paper. We do have a number of other cultural dimensions proposed by Geert Hofstede, for example, power distance. And for example, many Singaporeans, they feel the power group is separate, and many people feel we are just outside. And so in terms of power distance, Singaporeans, #1 in the world, according to Hofstede's study. And then masculinity, that's another, and then long-term orientation, and all these things are when we talk about a myopic view of our management and versus the long-term orientation, all these things will be related to corporate decisions. So somehow, even though we do have a large number of studies done in management area, but there are many things we can learn from management to adopt some of the philosophies or the cultural dimensions for finance or in financial or investment decisions. So I think, Professor Kim, your observation is very correct, and we have to look into other cultural dimensions of Hofstede's analysis, and that will promise a promising area of research for us.
Well, thank you, Professor Gondry. I think we still have some more questions. I think the time is still okay. I would like to read a question previously raised by Mrs. Arni. She asked about regarding your suggestions on the future research regarding the political regime. How to measure the political regimes? Could you please elaborate more on that?
Political
proxy regime.
Oh, so for the United States, it's very simple. Democratic Party versus Republican Party. And so we know the policy agenda of both parties, and then what they sympathize in terms of policy decisions and all that toward the rich people versus the poor people and all that. So in the United States, it will be very easy to contrast between two major parties and then see what happens. So for example, I worked with University of Hawaii, the business librarian, to come up with the gubernatorial election results. So going back to 1980, and then we have 50 states, what happens in gubernatorial election, and so who will be elected, which party, and all that, and number of votes and all this. We are able to gather all that information, and that will be a very, very useful information, and to some degree, kind of outside shock to the system when we have a change of local government, state government, changing from Democratic Party to Republican Party, or the other way around. And so I'm so happy with the gubernatorial election results we have, the index, and also there's a one political alignment index available from University of Central Florida, and Professor Park over there, he created this index, and then looking at the political alignment index, so contrasting state government and federal government, whether they belong to the same party or different parties. And in the US, it's very easy to distinguish between these two. And then, so when we have, for example, Florida governor is in the Republican Party, and then federal government is a Democratic Party, and then how the US corporations headquartered in Florida share and proceed vis-a-vis another states which had the complete different kind of situation. So we do have many interesting outside shocks coming into this. So this political alignment index and then gubernatorial election results and all this will be a wonderful data we can use to do this two-party systems, how it will create all kinds of frictions. So I feel the more I look at this picture, I feel, wow, this is really exciting area I can move in to study. So that's how I feel.
Okay, thank you, Professor Gondry. We still have some other questions, written questions. I would like to read it because according to the committee, we still have enough time, so don't worry. So there is a question from Ms. Dewi Irianti Wijaya. She asked about, is there even such a thing as an ideal average cash holding ratio? Do we have an ideal cash holding ratio? If so, then what is that percentage for the ideal one? Because she mentioned that as a business, business itself is dynamic and could be impacted by unpredictable changes of rules or regulations by government policies. It could be dish out the cash, the ideal things that she asked. And what do you think about this, Professor Gondry?
It's a very good question. And my simple answer is, at one point, given any static viewpoint, we can come up with the ideal, the balance or ideal mix, but it's always subject to continuous the changes coming from outside the impact. So even if we estimate it, wow, this is the optimal cash level, but next moment, next day, it will be different. So we have to come up with the dynamic evolution of these changes. So it's very difficult to say, this is it, and this is the way we have to do. But I'm afraid we cannot do that. So we have, at the most, what we can do is given outside shock and going through some kind of difference in difference tests and all that, and then, okay, so we will see this kind of changes, and then this is what we can inform. But I don't think we can just say this is the optimum. And I don't think that will be feasible for us to conclude.
Okay, so we don't have such an ideal ratio for every single company, right? It's dynamic.
And that's how
Okay,
I
next,
feel.
sorry, Professor Gondry. Next question is from Mirta Putri. She asked about your findings about the effect of EPU, economic political uncertainty, with the number of companies' investment as the dependent variable. The question is that is there any differences between the effect, of that EPU to companies' investment? If we look at, if we examine it in state-owned enterprise compared with private company, what will be the difference?
Oh, that's another good question. Good question. Unfortunately, in the United States, we cannot have that kind of setting, unlike Indonesia or China or Korea, other countries. And if we can have our EPU index numbers for all these countries I just mentioned, and then we should be able to do some meaningful analysis. But in the US, using US data, it's impossible. So that's why I love to have our Indonesian colleagues to work with some research projects and what Chinese colleagues to work with. And so I hope you can contact me to think about some research project we can do.
Yep, thank you, Professor Gondry, for also opening the possible collaboration between Indonesian scholars with Chinese, for instance. Yeah, Chinese scholar. Next question will be from Herlina from the chat box. Professor Gondry, do you think that the gender diversity can impact to the cash holding? If it is so, then probably masculinity, she proposed that masculinity and femininity probably need to be considered as another dimension of culture. Yeah.
Wow, that's another important,
what do you think about this, Professor Gondry?
Another important question. I didn't think about that far, but I feel if we can get hold of this gender diversity data, that will be wonderful study we can do. I noticed that we have 1,000 people sitting in this Zoom session, and then I can see that so many brilliant minds are working at this moment. And I can see from the nature of our questions I'm getting, this is really overwhelming. Gender definitely will have an impact, yes.
So if so, then what do you think, Professor Gondry? Just to elaborate more, do you think that gender could be proxied by, could be indicated by, let's say, the member compositions of female and male or something, to make it more clear?
Yeah, I kind of hate to do any prediction at this moment because I'm not familiar with the issue of gender diversity and all this. But I know the question raised by somebody who knows this issue, and I rather would like to ask her opinion, how she feels.
Okay, thank you. That's another things to do, and I think Pak Lawrence also gave reference for this. You made it research by Atif et al. 2018. Okay, the next question is from Anthony Cristanto. I would like to ask his questions. Prof. Gondry, why do you relate the cash ratio in the company with the individual culture instead of stage of the industry? What I mean, what he means that the life cycle industry, whether is it mature industry or developing or almost bankrupt industry in the country or in the relevant country. please.
Very good question. Very good question. I feel it can be a main focus of this kind of cash holding studies, or we can use the company firm age as one of the control variables. But if you like, you can highlight the firm age and firm lifetime related variable measures, and then bring out the main focus of the paper in that angle. And I think that's another important area we can move into. So with 1,000 people sitting in the Zoom session here, I'm impressed with so many brilliant ideas coming in this questions and answer sessions.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Gondry. I think we still have one more participant would like to ask. Just raise her hands. I saw it just now. Bu Herlina, or are you still there?
Yes. Can I directly ask you, Professor Ree? This is quite interesting for me. But do you think that this kind of Hofstede index is some sort of like a binary indication? You know what I mean? That this pool versus of this pool. So do you think any other spectrum that you expect from this kind of findings? I mean, not like a binary between, for example, masculinity, femininity, individualism, and collectivism, but the spectrum of that. Do you think you expect to find something like that? Not exactly in the right or left, but in a spectrum of that.
Oh, I see. I think I understand what you are trying to get at. And we do have a fairly large number of survey results on different cultural aspects. So I think some studies may be appealing to you. Unlike this, the Geert Hofstede's the analysis, or a couple of other papers, 3 other papers I cited in my paper. But I think there are rich sources of information we can rely on. So it's just a matter of how much you want to push ahead. So one thing I would like to tell some of the academics who raised questions today, or who are listening to our discussions, if you have any questions or follow-up ideas, please write to me. And Leo, one of the Secretary General of this conference, he has my contact address. Or if you Google my name, you will see my email address coming up. So please write to me. And also, I don't know how many graduate students we have in the audience, and we love to have PhD students coming into our program in Hawaii. So please consider, if you are graduate students, please consider Hawaii as your second home. We have a large number of Indonesian population here too.
Okay, thank you, Professor Gondry. I think this will be the last question from, I know this person because he's our colleagues.
Okay.
Pak Usman Arif. He asked questions. Hello, Professor Gondry. I have questions. How do you control the possible endogeneity problem between the volatility of EPU, cash holding, and EPU itself? Another question, the second question from Mr. Usman Arif is, he read a paper from Professor Goodell, 2021, in the Journal of Financial Stability. In that paper, the paper mentioned that political fractionalization is correlated with EPU, and volatility of EPU in each country and could have a possible impact on firms' cash holding. There are two questions. The first one is how to control the endogeneity effect, And the second one is about your comment on the finding of Professor Goodell 2021. So please, Professor Gondry.
Yeah, like anybody in the social science, I don't think we are free from endogeneity issue. So we have to live with it. So we have to use all kinds of possible techniques to take care of these issues. Otherwise, we cannot hit the major journals anyway. So two-stage least square regressions and instrumental variable approach, and then we have to identify outer shocks to go through difference in difference tests, and I guess we just follow what everybody else does, so that we cannot do much of freedom without it. So I think we have to live with it. So that's how I feel. And then second question referred to a specific study. I don't remember which one he or she was referring to.
Yeah, but the finding mentioned that political fractionalizations, so hard to
proximity.
Yeah, it is correlated with EPU and volatility of EPU in each country, and maybe have a possible impact on firm cash holding. What do you think about the possibility of relating those variables?
I'm afraid I have to think about more carefully before I give an answer to that. Yeah, and if the person who raised this question, if you can send me written question to me, email me, I will be happy to carry out some discussions.
Sure. He is our colleague as well, Professor Gondry, and he is very soon
okay.
will be a PhD student in Australia. I would
okay,
be more than happy to contact you personally. It's good.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
So congratulations then, Pak Usman Arif. You have a direct access to Professor Gondry.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I think the time is almost up. So again, thank you very much, Professor Gondry, for being with us, sharing a very insightful presentation regarding cash holding. Because to my understanding, cash holding is, in conventional point of view, is actually the least productive kind of investment if you hold cash. But on the other hand, you come up with the data of top 5 biggest company in the world, and you just showed us the data that those company, top 5 company, hold almost 30% of cash holding. It's kind of contradictory things between conventional point of view and empirical data. And I think thank you very much for sharing with us a new perspective on how to explain the cash holding, and also providing some future possible things to do in our future research. So again, thank you very much, Professor Gondry. Hope that you may join the next conference, EVA conference, and we will meet again.
Oh, definitely, I will do. Hi, Wyman. Thank you so much, and for presiding this session. And next year, I will definitely discuss political value related analysis we are conducting at this moment. And I will be happy to present the findings.
Sure. Thank you very much. It's our pleasure to have you always here, Professor Gondry.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to say bye-bye to everybody. I never seen 1,000 people in a Zoom session in my life. Amazing.
As you mentioned that we could live with pandemic, and this is the good things about pandemic. You can meet 1,000 people at the same time. So I think that's it for the plenary session, the first plenary session today. Thank you very much, everyone, for those who ask questions and participate in these plenary sessions. I think I will be back to Ms. Resha as the MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to say bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Professor Gondry.
Bye.
Prof. Gondry, we still have a photo session with you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also
On the
token
way.
of appreciation
Yes.
as well.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Again, thank you so much for the insightful sharing, Prof. Gondry, and thank you, Dr. Iwayan Nukalantara, for the interactive session. We would like to present a symbolic token of appreciation, a lifetime membership of Indonesian Finance Association,
Wow.
in conjunction with the celebration of Indonesia Batik Day moment. Before continue with group photo, we would like to invite Mr. Inarno Jayadi, the President Director of Indonesia Stock Exchange, to present our token of appreciation to Prof. Gondry. The time is yours, Mr. Inarno Jayadi.
Thank you, Resha. Thank you very much, Professor Gondry. Very interesting presentation. That's why no wonder the participant is more than 1,000, Prof.
Thank you.
Okay.
I love to visit Jakarta Stock Exchange soon.
Okay. And then this is our token of appreciation. Hopefully you will like it. And once again, thank you very much, Prof. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Please stand by for a group photo.
Okay.
I would like to invite all guests, speakers, and participants to turn on your camera, please. I will be counting down from 5 on each page. You better be ready. Page 1, stand by, please. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Page 2, please stand by.
Wow.
5,
Amazing.
Yes. Stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the last page, please stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you everybody to participate in this group photo. Also, for additional information, this event can be accessed via YouTube live for Indonesian Stock Exchange. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Professor Gondry, I think Dr. Mamdu is also here, one of your prominent students.
Yeah, I'm missing Mamdu. Where is he?
He was here this morning. I hope that he's still here with us. Pak Mamdu, are you still there?
Maybe I will catch him maybe tomorrow or this afternoon.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Gon. So see you.
Thank you, Ilwan. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
All right.
Again, thank you, Gondry. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye,
Professor.
So Leo, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Prof. Gondry.
Okay.
And Miss Legia, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Gondry. All right. Now we are arriving at the second plenary session by Mr. Fitri Hadi, the Director of Information Technology and Risk Management of Indonesia Stock Exchange. This session will be led by our moderator, Dr. Joy Eli Tulung from Universitas Samratulangi, Manado. Dr. Joy, please, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Resya. Good morning, everyone, and also good afternoon who are in the east of Indonesia. I hope all of you with a good condition and good health today. I am Joy Eli Tulung from Universitas Samratulangi, Manado, as a moderator for this session. Okay, and this session is the second plenary session in the 7th International Indonesian Finance Association, IFA, International Conference. And for your information, it's amazing because today, in this time, we still have more than 1,000 participants who attend from Zoom and also from watching from YouTube. And this season, we have our distinguished speaker, Mr. Fitri Hadi, and he will give a speech with the title Digital Transformation in Capital Market. But before we start the speech, I will introduce Mr. Fitri Hadi. Mr. Fitri Hadi was appointed as Director of Information Technology and Risk Management at IDX at the annual general meeting of shareholders on June 29 in 2018. And he began his career at Caldex, the oil company, then moved to IDX as the head of information technology development and outsourcing. And later on, he worked at several securities companies, such as PT DBS Fikir Securities Indonesia, the Wealth Management Service. And also, he previously was a group director of digital finance innovation at the Financial Service Authority, or we know as OJK in Indonesia. In this position, he was in charge of initiating innovation of financial services by financial service institution and fintech to prepare for the industrial development in the era of internet economy. And also, Mr. Fitri Hadi obtained his Bachelor of Informatic Engineering from ITB in 1994, and his Master of Business Administration from IPMI Business School in 2007. Okay, so Mr. Fitri Hadi, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished speaker, Bapak Peri Warjio, Governor of Central Bank of Indonesia, Bapak Inarno Jayadi, my boss, President Director of IDX, Professor Irwan Aji Eka Putra, Professor Gonri, and also all participants in this forum. Thank you for the opportunity to me to share about digital transformation in capital market. And it is an honor for us to share it for you. I'm going to explain how digital transformation has been growing our market bigger, increase market volume, increase efficiency, extend our reach to the rural and other region, and push inclusion where more citizens can invest in market easily and cheaper than before by using digital technology. Also, how digital transformation not only automate our business process, but create more business synergy among business participants. It drives new innovation, new value creation, it drives inclusion, and it also drives more information disclosure for investors to invest. In competition side, it will challenge the existing supply chain player with more newcomers from digital startup who bring new business model, more customer focus, and more way of working to become more competitive one. Next. Distinguished guests, as we know that during pandemic, it accelerated digital transformation in industry, where people maintain physical distancing, no face-to-face meeting to avoid the virus spread. It makes capital market become one of the public investment destination. Thank you to digital technology, social media that make our business survive, even growing bigger than before with more liquidity, more retail investor. PPKM or lockdown policy from the government shift investor behavior from offline transaction into online transaction from home. Our back office activities too transform from office-based activities into internet-based from home. All business process of our company can be operated by employee from home or so-called work from home, following by other participants. It changed the way we work dramatically. It has been more than 1 year we don't use our physical office often, but we can still maintain our productivity. In this slide, explain you the market performance during pandemic 2020 until 2021, where the online channel dominated the market transaction. By late March 2020, in the beginning of the pandemic, we can see market panic where the index dropped more than 37%. Since then, the index has started to recover, and by March 2021, it has returned to its pre-pandemic level. From the growth of the Indonesia stock market index in recent months, we can see that investor optimism has returned, as shown by year-to-date index performance of plus 4.18% by October 1st. In terms of number of trade, the average number of trade in 2021 reached 1.28 million trade per day, rising 89% compared last year figure. Meanwhile, the average of trading value consistently stay in the range of 13.2 trillion rupiah per day, and this has become the highest daily transaction ever in IDX. This data may show us that PPKM or lockdown policy shift investor behavior from offline trading to online. And also the youngster, so-called millennials, join our market through smartphone or mobile apps cheaper than before. Next. In this slide, I'm going to explain the development of growing number of retail investors, especially during pandemic. As a matter of fact, the trading spike in 2021 was highly influenced by the remarkable growth of new investors. We can see that the use of technology in new normal era gave a positive impact on the investor growth since last year. Thanks to its ability to reach much higher number of participants with wider area coverage at the same time, meaning we can educate so many potential investors at lower cost easily. In terms of increase in number of investors, we had reached new milestone of 2.6 million of stock investors and 6.1 million of cross-product in capital market investor by end of August 2021. Subsequently, the total stock ownership in Indonesia capital market are getting dominated by domestic investor. As of last 55.6% tradable stock are owned by domestic investor. And I can point out that the portion of retail investor has been increasing almost double from 8.3% or equivalent 477 trillion rupiah to 14.2% in August 2021 or equivalent 1,050 trillion rupiah. Then if we look at the composition of investor base in trading activities 2020, was the year where domestic investor was rising, especially our retail investor. On the bottom right graph, we can see that retail investor composition was the largest, up to 48% from total average daily trading value 9.2 trillion rupiah. The retail composition skyrocketing to more than 40% within the last 5 years and jumped to 59 this year. Next. In this slide, I'm going to show that despite the pandemic, we can also maintain our IPO numbers. As of October 1st, 2021, there have been 38 new listed companies in IDX this year, with the total fundraising 32.15 trillion rupiah. Thus bring the number of listed companies to 750 companies. Compared to the number of IPO among ASEAN countries, now Indonesia had the highest IPO for 3 years in a row since 2018 till 2020, based on the EY Global IPO Trend Report. Meanwhile, according to the Q3 2021 report, the number of IPO is still the highest among ASEAN stock exchanges. This growth is expected to be continue positively in year 2021. Next. The new development of our market, we are successfully introduced the new company Tech Unicorn IPO in our market. PT Bukalapak officially IPO and listed the name on IDX since August 2021. Bukalapak has made new history to be the first technology unicorn or startup to be listed on IDX, ahead of other unicorn in Indonesia. Bukalapak listed in development board under technology sector and software IT service subsector. Furthermore, the fund raised by Bukalapak reached 21.9 trillion rupiah, or highest IPO company compared to other company listed this year. And this IPO contribute to bring more retail investor. In our notes, there are new 16,000 new investors brought by this company. We have huge expectation this IPO will inspire other companies, including existing unicorn or startup, to join our capital market community. We are currently conducting an in-depth discussion with OJK and stakeholders to formulate regulation that allow this kind of tech startup to conduct IPO in Indonesia with some privilege that they ask. Next. Distinguished guests, as I mentioned before, that pandemic also bring huge impact on how our internal process in office transform from office-based, paper-based, and wax signature into less office, internet-based, paperless, using digital signature to support remote working. It dramatically changed the way we work without face-to-face meeting anymore. Nowadays, we are getting more productive compared to office-based way of working. But of course, we miss this office social life for so long. IDX also transformed its service to investor and stakeholder into more digital platform, notably providing online conference platform for listed company public expose, online general meeting of listed company shareholder, online voting of listed company investor, and capital market education everywhere. No longer limited by location, we can conduct education for everybody from Jakarta. In trading side, luckily we have been digitized a long time ago without physical trading floor anymore since 2004. And during pandemic, we increased trading system capacity, speed of order to become millisecond because we get more windfall from market, more liquidity from the market. Next. As I mentioned before, we still continuously digitize our business process. This is the list of capital market digital transformation that I'm going to share with you. We are continuously automate our business process in capital market ecosystem, getting more integrated, getting more efficient, and getting more wider access of Indonesia cities, Indonesia island at lower cost and lower entry barrier. As we know that Indonesia consists of 17,000 islands, remote technology is the best choice to increase our reach with low cost. With supervision of OJK and collaboration with other institutions in surrounding us, we had launched more transformation driven by digital technology. Firstly, in the upper box, you can see that in account opening, we have been conducting many discussions with OJK, KSAE, and other participants, with other institutions and ecosystem, securities company, bank, Dukcapil, and provider of digital signature to support the remote account opening without face-to-face meeting, paperless without wet signature. It enables remote investor open an account easily, and it also saves time from 14 days before into only one day to open an account. It also cheaper and in line with government policy during pandemic, PPKM and lockdown, that prohibit face-to-face meeting to contain a virus spread among us. Secondly, we also automate our IPO process by launching eIPO, an electronic platform to support initial public offering to the public, so people at large can buy stock in primary market easily during IPO from smartphone. Previously, the access to the primary market limited by the location and limited number of retail investors. Hopefully, by this platform, the retail investor participation will be larger. Thirdly, we provide online platform so-called Easy KSAE, comprise virtual shareholder meeting with remote voting feature. Retail investor can join shareholder meeting from everywhere, no longer limited by location of the meeting room. Then we also transform public expose from physical kind of public expose into digital one. So everybody can hear the public expose from listed company to decide whether to buy or to sell the stock in the market. We also support OJK initiative to manage the new business model, so-called equity crowdfunding, that support fundraising of small medium enterprise into the standardized one. As we know that a lot of SME in Indonesia, hopefully by this new business model, more SME in Indonesia can get more fund in regulated market. Lastly, in online IPO registration and online report that facilitate disclosure of information from listed company to the public. It is paperless, faster, and hopefully can bring more insight from investor before they buy or sell stock in the market. Next. This is the slide that explains more detail about digital onboarding. So, as I mentioned before, being online really does help bringing new investor to the market. But the key success, of course, the easiness of the market. These are the detail of the online investor account opening. I will not explain in detail, but for sure, this initiative supervised by OJK and involve not only us, but also involve Ministry of Internal Affairs through its Dukcapil, involve custodian bank, involve securities company, and involve technology company to provide credit scoring, to provide digital signature, to provide facial recognition, to conduct due diligence for KYC process. This process could help could happen because OJK also encouraged to facilitate the remote account opening. Next. As I mentioned before about digital company that we also joined, credit bureau company. As part of continuous effort to get right investor with lower default in non-performing loan in market financing, we manage individual credit scoring data of prospect investor through our subsidiary. IDA made strategic investment by buying 30% of Pevindo Credit Bureau shares, which provide credit scoring for individual and corporate to support KYC or investor due diligence. Credit scoring company collect all financing data from financial institution, purchasing habit from e-commerce and other loan provider, then calculate it become individual score, whether he or she eligible to become IDX investor. Thanks to technology, a lot of new technology being used in this company, such as machine learning technology, internet API, to manage all process and create important information for securities company. They can discover a variety of credit information with more clarity from the debtor profile, credit score, credit history report, risk level, and so on. The product ID score could potentially support broker in providing risk profile analysis of its investor, thus help them make suitable investment portfolio. Furthermore, to support advanced stock investments such as margin trading, broker could leverage ID score to decide its margin investor credit worthiness at lower risk. Next, the increase of number of investors also result of IDA continuous effort in education and campaign. During pandemic, we conduct more online education, more online campaign remotely. We utilize all digital means, including social media, to conduct a lot of public education. Until end of August 2021, nationwide, we have done more than 6,000 education activities with more than 600,000 participants remotely. We continue carry out IDX in line with the adjustment of social procedure during the pandemic. IDX has launched digital education innovation in March 2021, namely IDX Virtual 360, where people can experience visiting IDX and Yuk Nabung Saham Gallery through virtual reality technology. Investment education page in IDX website, IDX GA-Ton competition as a form of appreciation to the investment gallery and exchange member, which has started April 1st, 2021, and will last until end of this year. And also providing IDX Education Gallery in IDX Education Investment Gallery. This reflects the great opportunity in the use of digital to educate the public Indonesia capital market. Next. In line with the digital transformation, IDX believes with the critical role of technology company that could bring the industry into the journey of the industrial revolution. We are witnessing new trend in business landscape right now are driven by tech company, whether disintermediation, integration of supply chain in some sectors, new value creation, and even the competition among players getting tougher because of technology. In 2020, we established a technology company with a large mission and expectation. In short term, we hope that it will solve the existing problem in the industry in some securities companies and also some SRO companies. In the long run, we hope it will bring new idea of business transformation in the industry. As a startup, it has less burden from legacy system, legacy mindset, to think a breakthrough in the industry and to bring new added value to the industry. Next. In this slide, I'm going to show the number of securities companies who transform the way it serves customer or investor. Among 100 securities companies, 67 of the securities companies already provide the online service to serve domestic investor and cross-border investor. From the statistic, top 20 most active securities company, almost all of them provide the online trading right now. And also more than 60% of daily trading value coming from online platform. This service gives investor more convenient, one-stop solution to invest, and it makes easily to participate in the market from account opening, trading, monitoring until Q&A. So hopefully it will bring more and more investor into our market. Next. In this slide, I'm going to inform you the latest progress from securities company business, where the startup company acquire the securities company and launch its brand new business model with its brand new strategy. The company conduct one-stop service, utilize social media, influencer, and also lately we hear that it also modified the commission into be more competitive commission for the investor. And it is totally paperless, no face-to-face meeting. It will challenge the competition landscape in our broker industry, of course. Next. In this slide, shown that two more digital startup business model that serve lower investor and also serve small medium enterprise companies to join the market. The first one is fund supermarket, which enable the retail investor to buy the cross product of mutual fund from some fund manager. While equity crowdfunding will serve the small medium enterprise to do the fundraising from the standardized market. As we know that in the past, small medium enterprise raise fund from informal source, but now hopefully by this platform, it will bring the small medium enterprise to the regulated market. Hopefully these two business model will success as an effort of government and OJK to push the financial inclusion, to push wider participation of small medium enterprise, and to share the benefit of the market to the small investor. Next. In this slide, I'm going not to explain you in detail. This is the list of technology that we are using right now to drive the digital transformation. And I'm sure it will continue because the market changes very, very dramatically right now. I think that's all the sharing from me. Thank you for your participation. Good afternoon. I'm sending back to the Mr. I forget the name. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fitriadi, for your enlightening and entertaining presentation on the right way regarding the digital transformation in our capital market. We also see you explain about the first day unicorn listed in IDX and also the new ways of the working in IDX. Okay, if you any question from the attendee, the panelists, please raise your hand. And if also you want to write your question, please write on the Q&A, and I will read the question. Okay, so whether any panelists would like to ask Mr. Fitra regarding his presentation, please raise your hand. Yeah, that was very interesting explanation, Mr. Fitria, regarding the digital transformation in capital market in Indonesia. Okay, I don't see any panelists raise hand, and also in Q&A, we don't see any question now. We still have more time.
I'm Irwan.
Okay, Pak Irwan, please ask the.
Okay, Pak Fitriadi, thank you for the presentation. I noticed in your presentation that the number of individual investors increased quite dramatically since the pandemic, and partly because of the digitalization of IDX. I also observed that lately the volatility of the stock market has increased. Do you think it's because of the international factors, or because of the increase in individual investors may also drive the volatility of the stock market higher? That's my question. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, Mr. Fitri, perhaps you can answer now.
Okay, thank you for the question. About the market dynamic, of course, in the market, a lot of trading motive from participants, from the international, from macroeconomy, from newcomers, such as retail investor, and so on. And because idea in the position of the neutral, we really rely on the analysts from stockbroker, whether they can explain you in more detail what happened in the market right now. And of course, the pandemic drive the dynamic of the market for sure, and it also changed the customer behavior in industries, real sector industry, service industry. Those accumulate become the thing that you observe in the market right now, the volatility and the liquidity of the market. I think that's the general answer from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fitri. So are there any question, or Prof. Irwan Adhika Putra want to add something?
No,
regarding...
Thank you.
Okay.
For the moment, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I see now in the Q&A, I will read the question from Raden Dio Abadiputra. So his question is about the cryptocurrency. Does the crypto market have an impact to the stock market? With the growth of technology and gave many people option to have a choice to invest. So that's the question from Mas Raden. Whether Mr. Fitri directly answer or...
All right. Thank you for the question. I'm going to try to answer. Crypto, of course, the new market that's happening right now, and it is unregulated market, and also it is attract the pool of fund from the market to try the dynamic of the crypto market. Of course, it will bring impact to our market because we are different. Stock exchange is a regulated market. We have so many, risk management here to maintain the customer protection, to mitigate the volatility that can impact the public investor. Of course, we cannot compare with this crypto market, compare with regulated market. But for sure, from my perspective, a lot of protection in the regulated market compared to unregulated one. In unregulated one is free, supply demand. You can see everything happen there. The dramatic drop of the price and so on. While in our market, we have kind of circuit breaker to maintain the drop in certain level, for example. And in our market, we encourage the listed company to disclose any information that can bring impact to the price of the stock. I don't know in crypto whether somebody there that posts the information disclosure for those who become underwriter of the crypto product. I think we cannot compare it as a apple to apple product. It's totally different product. But for sure, it brings impact to our market too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fitria. Are there any questions from the panelists? Please raise your hand. But before the question from the panelists, I would like to ask something, Mr. Fitri, regarding the cybersecurity. So about the risk mitigation in IDX, can you explain about that to us regarding the risk mitigation in cybersecurity, so that the threat for us at the moment to implement the digital transformation?
Thank you for the question. Of course, the cybersecurity is the top challenge in digital transformation, especially when we talk about the internet transaction, because everybody can interrupt the data from one side to the other side by doing the criminal action in the internet. For IDX, we comply with the procedure before we launch the internet application, and also our stock member, before they launch the application, we oblige them to be supervised, to be audited by IT auditor. And IT auditor will conduct a lot of questions, a lot of tests, a lot of checklists to make sure that the application actually secure for the user. We also collaborate with the institution who responsible in internet security. Luckily in Indonesia, we have Badan Siber dan Sandi Negara, BSSN. We collaborate with them. They gave us a lot of insight how to secure our application, how to secure our internet from unnecessary access from criminals. And yes, it is the biggest challenge in digital, in the internet transaction, in the internet era. But don't worry, we have a checklist from expert to mitigate the risk, to secure our transaction through internet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fitri. I see here the attendee raised hand, but I would ask to the committee whether the attendee can ask a question. Can they give access for the attendee to raise the question directly, or just a Q&A? Because I see here three attendee raised their hand. Perhaps they would like to ask something.
Dr. Joy,
Yeah.
currently we are also still having like 2 questions on the Q&A tab. Probably we can make it on one channel for the question.
Okay, so I will read first the Q&A and then for the attendee. That's okay?
Yes, please, Dr. Joy.
Okay, so I will read 2 questions here from Ibu Isilolowang and Ibu Lydia Kumayas. So the first question from Ibu Isilolowang, I would like to ask to Mr. Fitri, please share about the key digital transformation strategies and the success factors for companies deploying digital solution. And the second question from Ibu Lydia Kumayas, digitization is a must, but the risk is more higher too. So how the investor protect their money, invest the startup company, will give high return, but the risk will be higher too. So are startup IPO not overpriced to buy something risky? Okay, that was the question from two attendee.
Thank you, Mr. Joy. I try to answer. Number one is key success factor for digital transformation. Of course, the key success factor for digital transformation is by identify the risk. Of course, the risk. For the incumbent like us, IDX, we already have business established since a long time ago. Digital transformation could bring risk. So that's why we identify the risk. Number one, could bring instability in our existing business. So we have to be careful with that. Start small and try to do it safely. Start small, and when it comes to stable position, then you can make it bigger and larger. And the other thing, the key success factor is the talent, of course. If you don't have talent, I don't suggest you to try, because you need to have a smart person in that area. Those who identify what kind of process that we can transform to digital, or we wait until a certain period of time. And the other thing, because we are in the financial service industry, of course, the participation or supervision from regulators is the key. This is the highly regulated industry. Thing that still don't allow by the government or the regulator, don't try to do that, because we violate the regulation. So first, we need to talk to regulator, bring them to the discussion, show them the benefit of this transformation, and then ask them the permission. If they don't agree, don't try it. We are different with the other industry. We are different with, let's say, the commerce industry. This is not the financial industry. There is no risk that as bigger as the financial industry. In financial industry, things are easy to be manipulated, easy to be, a lot of things can happen in financial market, such as money laundering, criminal activities, and so on. So in commerce industry, the digital transformation will be based on the added value. That's it. If you find the added value, if you find that the customer need it, then you do it and you get the business. But in financial service, not only customer, but also regulator, because a lot of risk management here. And the last one, I think, choosing the right technology, because not all technology fit with us, depend on our business model. Because right now, technology thing that quite expensive. Choose the technology that boost the what do you call it, economies of scale. Because once we use technology, we have to compensate with the scale, with the more customer, more liquidity come to our platform. If it is less, then we will end up with the uneconomical transformation. We will pay expensive. It's useless. Whether we choose the right technology that drive economies of scale, create the cost saving, not only because of the brand of the technology, but the benefit of the technology. Make sure that we calculate properly about that. Thank you. And the second one, invest in startup. Well, we have to understand that the startup has unstable business model because they are a brand new business model. They try the market, whether the customer, whether the revenue will sustain in the long run. And of course, we have to be careful because the volatility will be higher compared to investment in the established company. I think that's all for the startup investment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fitri, for your answer. Okay, now we still have time. I see the question also in the chat box. I will read from Ika Prayanti. So, Mr. Fitri, how do you see the main challenge in the capital market related to digital transformation? And what might be the biggest risk of the challenge and how you deal with those risks? Okay, so that's the question from Ms. Ika Parayanti. Okay, Mr. Fitri.
Thank you, Ms. Ika. Very good question, the challenge and the risk. I start with the risk because we have to be careful with digital transformation. Seems that it is quite popular right now, but we have to understand the risk first, especially for the incumbent like us, the established company. We have to understand that the nature of the digital transformation is to shortcut the process, to make it instant, to cut people, to cut process. So be careful about that because you will deal with the unemployment, right? You will deal with the change in the revenue stream. So make sure you calculate properly about those risks and then you can start. If you can manage the risk, you can start it. And of course, the risk compared to the benefit that you're going to get from this transformation. Of course, as I mentioned before, the transformation, there are two. Number one, to cut costs. Number two, to extend
saya kira kalau saya usul
extend the market reach. Make sure that when we cut costs, we maintain the risk. When we reach a wider scope of the market, we can get more customers, right? So that's the answer about the risk. And the challenge, of course, the challenge, we have to understand that the challenge, the people, the talent, those who understand the future, those who also know the process, also know the opportunity, and lastly, they understand how to implement it. Most of the transformation fail in the middle because they are good in planning, but in execution, they realize that it is not only about technology, it is also about people, it also about process, and it also about business. It's not only merely automation to shortcut the process, but you have to consider those three, business, benefit, and people. I think that's a challenge in digital transformation. Ms. Ika, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fitri. So are there any question? Prof. Ted, any question? I hear okay, so I see the question here from okay, I think we still have a lot of time, but that's answer from Mr. Fitri already conclude his presentation today. I think the digital transformation is the integration of the digital technology of all areas in our business and fundamentally changing how we operate and deliver value to customer, etc. And as mentioned by Mr. Fitri, the COVID-19 forced us to make more faster digital transformations. And then he also mentioned in his presentation about the Indonesia capital market to show the remarkable resilience during the pandemic, and the stock index rebound, the strong IPO, the increased investor, and the market liquidity. And lastly, the Indonesia capital market were well prepared the digital transformation, and also already harvesting its impact in the Indonesian capital market. So thank you very much, Mr. Fitri, for your insightful and to us regarding the digital transformation in Indonesian stock exchange. It's very helpful to us and all the attendees, I think, regarding your presentation. And then I think let's conclude our session today, and I will give back to our MC, Miss Resya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Professor Joy. Thank you, everybody.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the wonderful sharing, Mr. Fitri Hadi, and also Dr. Joy for the interactive session. Also, we would like to present a symbolic token of appreciation, a lifetime membership of Indonesian Finance Association and Batik in conjunction with our Batik Day moment. Before we continue with the group photo, we would like to invite again Dr. Joy to present our token of appreciation to Mr. Fitri Hadi, please.
Okay, thank you very much. In the name of IFA, Indonesian Finance Association, we give the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Fitri Hadi as a plenary speaker today, and also for the lifetime membership to Mr. Fitri Hadi. Thank you very much, Mr. Fitri Hadi.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Thank you, everybody.
And also Batik, please stand by for a group photo. I would like to invite all guest speakers and participants to turn on your camera again, please. All right. I will be counting down from 5 on each page. Page 1, please stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Page 2, please stand by. All right. Please turn on your camera. All right. I'll start counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the last page, please stand by. Okay, please also turn on your camera. All right, I'll start counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you everybody to participate in this group photo. And also for additional information, this event can be accessed via YouTube Live Indonesia Stock Exchange. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih Pak Fitriadi.
Terima kasih semuanya. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very insightful morning after listening to our keynote speakers and 2 of our distinguished guest speakers. We will have a lunch break for 60 minutes, and we will have the parallel sessions to hear from other speakers in various topics. Please kindly note that we will be conducting 2 parallel sessions at 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. in 6 separate rooms, each with interesting topics. Please note which room that you would like to join. The detailed information on the link of each room and topics are available in the conference program, and the guide we send to your email, or you may also get it from the Zoom chat. Tomorrow, our conference will start at 9 a.m. sharp. Please make sure to join us again for another insightful day. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.